G'day and welcome back to the Wing It podcast, and especially welcome back to our NBA listeners. We have been a bit absent, but we're back with our NBA, our talk show, and today we're going to be talking about the playoffs. We'll do a bit of a playoffs recap, but more importantly, a finals preview between, guess who? The Golden State Warriors, they're back in it, and a certain Boston Celtics team.
Which were called in the preview podcast by yours truly. I did say they'd make the finals. Everyone at the start of the year said, Doggo, they're paying $26 to make the finals. That's ridiculous. I chucked $50 on it. And don't know what happened to that bet. I'm pretty sure I cashed it out. So I don't know where it's gone. Because about 25 games into the season, it was looking like they might not even make the playoffs.
You probably cashed it out for $3.
Yeah, I think I actually cashed it out because I was thinking about it the other day. But no, regardless, doesn't really matter. I did call it on the podcast. So all of you who got on that at $26, you're welcome.
Anytime.
I'll accept my cash through envelope.
So
yeah, into our finals preview. We're gonna be talking about some of our predictions for the awards, which will be fantastic, and some of the stat leaders as well.
Yes,
because it's been a very interesting playoff so far, hasn't it, Cam?
Yes, let's talk about who's been interesting in the playoffs so far. Let's talk about who's been the most valuable player, and I've got to say, most valuable player for me. Might be the same for you.
It is.
Dare I say it is, because we've already got a script on our hands. But it's Jason Tatum.
It is Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum, I think the undeniable MVP of this playoffs. He has gone to another level. And I feel like there's a player every single year who he's probably sitting top 10, top 8 in the league.
Yeah.
And then he has this playoff run and you go, shit, he's a top 3 player. It's happened with Kawhi. It's happened with Giannis. Always happens with LeBron. Happened with KD.
Jimmy Butler to a degree too last year.
Jimmy Butler, yeah. Happened with so many players where they're sort of sitting on the precipice of that top 5 and then they just push right into the top 3, which I think Tatum's done this year. Yeah. He's been unbelievable scoring, obviously. His clutch scoring's been phenomenal. And they've been on a bit of a revenge run, which I've really liked. I did call it at the start of the playoffs that they'd go on a little bit of a revenge run, just looking at who they might play. Obviously, they took out the Nets, who they lost to last year. They took out the Bucks, who they lost to a couple of years ago. Took out Miami, who they lost to in 2020 in the Eastern Conference Finals as well. Then now they're through to face Golden State in the finals. So their first finals since 2010 for the Celtics.
They finally got over the hump. They've been so close so many times. I mean, that Isaiah Thomas team I wouldn't even speak about because nobody cares. But especially the last years with Boston, they finally got over the hump. And they're going to be hungry for such a young team. I mean, Jason Tatum's only 19 years old, for God's sake. For such a young side, we feel like they're match hardened.
Yeah.
They completely are. They're match hardened for a team that shouldn't be. I mean, Al Horford has played, I can't remember the exact number.
141.
Yeah, it was 140-odd playoff games without a finals appearance. So this team, as a young side that's never made the finals, they've got experience in abundance.
Yeah, as you said, for such a young team, they've been in 3 Eastern Conference Finals, and they've only been around for about 5 years, which is pretty amazing. As you said, Al Horford, he's had the privilege of being on teams that are the number 1 seed. He's had
numerous
the privilege
times
of being on Eastern Conference Finals teams, but never making the finals until now.
Yep.
And Jason Tatum, his teammate, is a big part of that, and that's why he's deserving of the MVP.
100%. I forgot we talked about Tatum for a second there. But he is definitely MVP. Let's move on to next. Who's been the biggest surprise? Dogger, who's your biggest surprise of this whole entire playoffs thus far?
My biggest surprise is Marcus Smart.
Yep.
So Marcus Smart, literally for the last 3 years, has been trade bait. He's been the CJ McCollum of the East. For the last 3 years, everyone said, all right, where's Marcus Smart going? Who are we trading for Marcus Smart? Even this year, he was spoken about literally 40 games into the season as a Ben Simmons trade piece.
Yeah, he was. He's a nice little chuck-in, wasn't he?
Literally. And now he is the 3rd best player on what could be a championship team. Yep. And he's taken the most shots per game on the team, and he's the best defensive player who has the biggest defensive matchup every single week. And he has surprised me more than any other player this playoffs, and is a big reason why the Celtics have been able to make it this far.
100%. My surprise is
tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, it's a really tough pill to swallow. It's Andrew Wiggins. I mean, when he went to Golden State, it made sense. He could just play that Harrison Barnes role. But he's actually become a genuine star. He's rebounding the house down. He's actually scoring huge points. He's He's defending. He's getting chased down blocks.
What happened to the Wiggins that would get 18, 1-1 as a stat line in Minnesota?
And Knightley.
Yeah.
Knightley get 18, 1-1. Now he's a 17, 7-3 guy. And I don't know where it's come from. He's been tremendous on defense, which I don't think anyone expected to do. He's literally had more blocks in this playoffs than I've seen him have in 5 years in Minnesota. So he's been a huge surprise. And he has skyrocketed into the second best scorer in that team. I think I can almost say, because Clay's been a bit hit and miss, to say the least. So Wiggins is probably the second most important scorer on that team, and that's crazy to say, and I'm shocked by it. But Wiggins has surprised me by so much. He is not a Jordan Poole, just whatever he is. He is a genuine cog in this championship team.
He really has surprised me by his defensive leap as well.
Oh, it's astounding.
It's got to be the biggest, the most impressive thing, and probably the thing the Warriors didn't really expect as well.
No.
Having that wing presence on the defensive end has been absolutely massive to aid, obviously, Curry's sort of lack of ability on the defensive end.
And Clay's lack of mobility now.
Yeah, and obviously to aid one of the best defensive players in the league in Draymond.
Yeah.
So... Yep.
He's always had it, Wiggins. He's always had that in his ability because of his length and size and speed, but never has he showed it. All right, next award that we're going to give out is, we're going to talk about who's been the most unluckiest side out of everyone.
And there's been a few.
There has been quite a few.
Yeah.
100% has been quite a few.
Well, you even look at like the Nets. The Nets.
They were unlucky.
In turmoil all year, had a fantastic team. Harden leaves them. Kyrie can't play all year, and then as soon as the season ends, he gets vaxxed. I don't know, a bit strange on that one. And
Simmons can't suit up.
Yeah, Simmons can't suit up. Been quite unlucky to then be a first-round exit. And also Philadelphia trading for a former MVP and getting whoever that was. Anyway.
Yeah, very unlucky. And NMB getting hurt in the playoffs too. There's been a lot of unlucky teams. You've gone with the unluckiest team being?
Yeah, the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, fair enough.
So... I'm going a little bit deeper on this one, getting a little bit emotional, if you will. But the emotional turmoil that they've had to endure this year has been like nothing I've really seen in the last sort of few years, since probably the Donald Sterling Clippers. So there was constant media attention in the offseason with Ayton not signing the extension or not being offered to him, actually, due to Sava being a bit of a stingy prick.
Yeah, put it nicely.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was a lot of turmoil with the Sava investigation, where he was investigated for allegedly utilising racist language throughout his whole career, allegedly. And then they had to go through all of that. So much media in with that. And then the whole Ayton awkwardness all year, where Monty Williams said that he's not really his favourite player to coach and things like that. All of this sort of weighed on them and seemed to just come crashing down on them in the playoffs.
It did.
And players seemed really run down. Ayton seemed really, like he would go really motivated in a really good game, then really unmotivated, and was getting inconsistent minutes. And then they unfortunately had the injury to Chris Paul throughout the season, and they had the injury to Devin Booker in the playoffs as well. And they happened to come up against a Mavericks team that shot the most threes in a playoff series of all time. Yeah, which is
that's
ridiculous.
Probably the definition of unlucky, isn't it?
It is. We made 45% of our 3-pointers in Game 6.
And you probably took an exuberant amount as well to get there. Not like you took 10. I guarantee you probably took 60 of them. So
yeah, literally. It was absolutely unbelievable performance. Could never be replicated by the Mavericks or really any other team. And that's what the Suns happen to come up against. And obviously Super Luka just went crazy. So
no, I completely agree. The elephant in the room that Phoenix had all year became the biggest elephant possible come in playoffs, and it was, you couldn't ignore it, could you? Yeah. My unluckiest team is not as deep as yours, a bit more just on a standard front, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks. I think I can comfortably say if Chris Middleton doesn't do his knee, they are playing in the finals tomorrow.
Have to agree.
Or whatever it is, 2 days time. I can't see, I don't see there's any other way. I think they win every game. They get past all those Eastern Conference teams quite comfortably. And we've seen them against Boston before. So yeah, I honestly think they'll be playing in the finals if Middleton doesn't do his injury. So I think that's as unlucky as it gets. Giannis really got a bit unjust there, didn't he? Because Drew played out his mind. Giannis was still Giannis. They just needed that third guy. They don't have it at all without him. Bobby Portis was the third guy, wasn't he? So and that's just not it.
Drew was very, very impressive, and I think for years to come, they're going to be a real force in the East, and next year pretty much chalk them up for a finals appearance if they're healthy.
100%. All right, we're going to get into our finals preview now, but before we do, let's take a quick ad break from our partner, Bet with Joel. Welcome back to the Wing It podcast. Now, let's get straight into our predictions for the NBA Finals. Let's talk about who's going to be the Finals MVP. This is probably the most prestigious award in the whole entire NBA.
Yeah, definitely. Not if you ask Jerry West, though. You
No.
have to watch Winning Time to see that one.
Yes.
He does not like his Finals MVP trophy. He throws it against the wall and through glass about 6 times, which is pretty impressive. So,
Wow. Okay, well, that's all.
anyway, very prestigious.
Anyway.
Very prestigious.
Let's talk. It usually goes with the best player on the winning team. It makes sense, doesn't it? But we've seen some weird ones over time.
Yeah.
But we're going with 2 pretty vanilla calls here. But I think they're justified. I'll go straight off. I'm going with Steph Curry.
Yeah.
Wow, shock horror. I think Golden State win, so I think Curry gets it. I think if he doesn't get it, I'll be shocked if he doesn't, because it's going to take Clay to average like 29 for Curry to not get it.
Yeah.
And Draymond's got to go 10, 10, and 10 to get it.
Yeah.
And even if that all happens, Curry probably still averages like 23, 4, and 4, 6. So he probably gets it regardless. So I think if Golden State win, Curry just has to get it. Simple as that.
Yeah, it's a pretty boring one for me as well. Like, obviously, fate of the world on his shoulders. One shot. I'll take Iguodala. I'm just going to take Jason Tatum. So I unfortunately made the mistake of listening to the Bill Simmons / Ryan Russillo podcast.
Oh, God.
As a preview for the finals. Obviously, 2 Celtics homers, and now I'm convinced the Celtics will win, and there's no way that Golden State can stop them.
Wow.
So, don't know why I think that. To be fair, I thought that at the start of the season.
You did.
When I said they would make the finals and they would be the best team in the East, which they were. And I also said that Jason Tatum would make the All-NBA first team, which he did. But no, I'm going to take Tatum again. I think finals MVP, if the Celtics win, he's going to be the driving force. And with his playmaking prowess that he's been showing in the playoffs now, I think that's adding a huge string to his bow.
Well, that is why you're listening to the Wing It podcast, because we are impartial here. We don't have that straight bias here, do we? Never have, never will.
Definitely not.
Let's get into most points per game. I'm going against my finals MVP, and I'm going with your finals MVP, and I'm saying Tatum. I think Tatum averages 28 a game, and that's enough Curry won't get near that, I don't think, with Wiggins and Clay alongside him. And I don't think Brown will get near it. So I'm taking Tatum on a 28 point per game average, and that'll be enough. And here's your points per game.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Obviously, you've said my finals MVP shout. And to be honest, I could easily see Golden State winning this. And I'm going to say it right here, right now. My hot wing for the finals is that the winner of the finals MVP will be on a losing side.
Wow. How many times has that happened in history?
Well, the first time the finals MVP was ever given out was when the Celtics won and Jerry West got it. Mm-hmm. So I can see Jason Tatum winning the finals MVP and the Warriors winning.
Oh, wow.
Calling it here first. Anyway, got a bit sidetracked there, but I think the leader of points per game, who was the leading points per game player up until Game 7 of the last series, and that's Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, wow.
Jaylen Brown out of nowhere. I couldn't believe he was the leading points per game player.
That's crazy.
Over Jimmy Butler, over Jason Tatum. Wouldn't have guessed it. He's the sort of player he'll go off for one game of the series at least, and I think he's going to take the crown of that. Quick mention to Jordan Poole. I think Jordan Poole's going to have one game this series where he scores like 35 and he's going to be unstoppable.
Like it.
Bit random.
You're right. Brown has that one game every series, and it's not just a nice 29-point game. It's probably like a 38. He can easily do that. All right. Most rebounds per game. Bit of an interesting stat, and I'm going with another tough pill to swallow. I'm going with Andrew Wiggins, the man who couldn't grab more than 2.4 rebounds per game in Minnesota. I think he's going to pull down the most rebounds in this series. I look at Boston's team. Robert Williams, who knows if he even plays, and even if he does play, he's probably off the court just because he can't shoot.
Yep.
I don't really trust Horford to get any more than 7 or 8 a game. And I think Dre is going to be too busy defensively. I think Wiggins is going to pull down like 9 a game. He's averaging 7 in the playoffs anyway. 9's enough to do it himself. I'd take Wiggins over rebounds every single game.
Yep. Don't mind that at all in a series where there's no real true rebounder.
Nah.
I think Al Horford's going to play a big role in this, and that's why I'm taking him for most rebounds for the series. I think Al Horford is going to be a nightmare for Steve Kerr to try and game plan against, and he's going to have to play Looney 28, 30 minutes a night at least just to match the size of the Celtics. And we saw in the Miami series, they're not afraid to go big. They're happy to go big, even against a smaller team. And I think they're going to keep Horford out there probably 40 minutes a night or as far as his legs will take him. and just to force Kevin Looney to be out there because he's definitely not in their best starting five.
No.
And he's not really, doesn't fit into that death lineup they like to run as well. So I think Al Horford, most rebounds because he's going to be the biggest man out there.
Just before we move on, I believe you have a little birdie told you a stat about Wiggins and his rebounding. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I was thinking about it just before because Andrew Wiggins has been on fire with his rebounding this playoffs, hence why you called him for most rebounds. In Minnesota, would you have called him for most rebounds in a playoff series?
I wouldn't call him for most rebounds when he played the 5 position in a game.
Exactly right. That's because Andrew Wiggins, before this playoffs, had 12 double-doubles in 600 games.
That is disgusting.
And now he has had 4 in this playoffs alone. He has had more than 1 in each round.
So you're telling me he's had a quarter of his whole entire career's worth of double-doubles in the last 3 weeks?
Exactly right.
That's disgusting.
What has happened to Andrew Wiggins?
Where's it come
I think
from?
we should drug test him because there's something seriously wrong going on. You can't pull down 10 rebounds 12 times in your career, but then do the same thing in, 4 weeks?
4 times?
Yeah, 4
that's
times
obscene.
in 4 weeks.
That's obscene. That is actually obscene.
Crazy. Don't know what's going on with that. Drug test him.
100%. All right, most assists per game. This is an interesting one. Boston doesn't really have that assist racker-upper guy, do they?
No.
It's Smart, Tatum, and Brown can all give you like 3 to 5.
Horford, Derek White.
Yeah, they've got. It just spreads around, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think we're both going to go with the Golden State guy, I assume. Just which one do you pick? I'm going with Dre. I'm going with Dre because I think he's just going to be the guy who brings it up the court. It's as simple as that. He's going to be the guy. He's going to dribble it up because I think Curry's going to have his hands full. He'll bring it up and then he's going to have to make the first decision. Will they end up in assists? Who knows? But I think 6 to 7 assists a game could average enough in this series.
Yeah, don't mind it at all. We saw it in the Miami series. There was not a lot of assists going around. It was a lot of ISO ball and a lot of sort of just sharing the ball around quite a bit. So I think the most assists average in that series was actually Marcus Smart with 5.
There you go.
And you'll hate to hear this, but the Heat, the most assists averaged by the Heat player, Gabe Vincent.
No.
2.8.
No.
2.8. No one averaged over 3 assists.
Not Jimmy. I know Larry. Larry certainly didn't.
Not Jimmy. So before Game 7, Jimmy was averaging 3, and then he got 1 in the last game.
And Larry had 10 one game, but he had 0 the night before.
Yep. So very strange series. Anyway, that doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is I don't think the Celtics will have a leading assist getter. I think it's going to be Stephen Curry.
Yeah.
So I think Curry is going to have his hands full, as you said before, with Marcus Smart, hence will not bring the ball up. And then I think he's just going to get trapped every time he gets it. Because do I trust Draymond Green to make a shot in the finals? No. Do I trust Klay Thompson to make a shot in the finals? Not really. Wiggins, absolutely not. Looney, no. Jordan Poole, never been there before. Don't trust him. You trust Steph Curry, so you try and get the ball out of his hands as much as you can. And if someone else is taking the shots, I'm just going to live with it. So I think every time when Curry gets trapped, it's going to be an open shot. And I think he's going to find that man. And he could average 10 assists this series. I truly think that. So
I think so too.
Could be big for his finals MVP argument.
I love that. Great call. I mean, I think Draymond could be taking 2+ threes again a night. I think, seriously, with the fact that they'll trap Curry.
Have to agree.
All right. Most important role player. I'll be very quick here because I can't believe how many times I've had the same bloke's name in my mouth. For a guy who's got his Guernsey three times, I've had his Guernsey in my wardrobe. I'm going with Wiggins again. Most important role player. He has to be. He is if most people would say he's the 4th best player in Golden State's team, behind Klay and Dre and Steph.
Yep.
He's playing like the number 2 right now, and he has to. And he seriously can. He can be an 18-8 guy every night in this series, and that's huge. That is if he's an 18-8 guy, he's the 2nd most important player on that team.
Yep.
Like stats wise. Dre might only be a 3-5-5 guy. Who knows? So Wiggins is just. I can't believe I'm saying it. He's not Harrison Barnes. He is the Clay of that team. Like Harrison Barnes.
KD 2.0.
He is literally playing that KD 2.0 role, and that makes me feel sick in the head.
Yeah.
Anyway, Wiggins is the most important role player.
Bit strange to be calling him the most important player, don't you reckon? Most important role player. Don't you think that's a bit weird? The only number 1 pick in the series.
Yeah, he is.
There you go. A little bit of facts for this episode.
How about that?
But my most important role player, I couldn't pick between the two. It's Marcus Smart and Al Horford. Yeah. I could not separate the two, both for similar reasons I've already mentioned. I think Marcus Smart is the perfect matchup for Steph Curry. A little bit bigger than him, a little bit stronger, almost as quick as him, can run with him all game. And I think he's just going to be a pest on the defensive end. And he's going to be really, really hard fought to stay away from foul trouble. But I think the trapping of him and how Marcus Smart's going to deal with him is going to be amazing. It's going to be like a cornerback on a wide receiver. It's going to be pretty good to watch. So also Al Horford, he's just going to make the Warriors play a certain way. They're going to have to play with a traditional big. They're going to have to go for rebounds, play tough, play hard under the basket. And Al Horford's going to make him do that. So playing Kevon Looney, I think it's going to be a big disadvantage for the Warriors. But they're going to have to do it just to stop Al Horford.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Horford's going to be one of the most important players in this series by so much.
Yep.
All right, let's wrap this up. Let's send this baby home with our final score predictions. I'll take the Warriors in 6, and I would actually take them in 5, but I've got too much respect for the Boston Celtics. So Warriors in 6, we'll wrap it up. Game 6, no worries.
Yeah, well, I completely understand that. And it's also the rust versus rest.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge contributor.
Yeah, so Celtics have had an extremely hard road to get here. They had 6 grueling games against the Bucks. They had 7 grueling games against the Heat, which are some of the most physical games.
Which should have been done in 5.
Should have been done in 5.
Yeah.
Which are some of the most physical games you will see this playoffs. And they're just going to have to recover. They're going to have to recover better, be smarter, and they're going to have to shut them out the first 2 games, or one of the first 2 games at least, at the Chase Center. It's going to be super important.
Yeah.
Always difficult to do. The Warriors have not lost at home this playoffs, but also the Celtics have won 8 games away this playoffs as well.
Wow.
Which is a pretty interesting stat.
Best
there.
home side versus best away side, pretty much.
Exactly right. And obviously they beat the Heat in their own building, Game 7. But I think the Celtics are going to take this one out. I made this prediction after listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, so I'm juiced up with all the Celtics bias all in me. But I think they're just better on the wings. They're a really bad matchup for the Warriors. I think if the Heat were in this, the Warriors could honestly sweep.
Yeah, agreed.
But just the size and the defensive demeanor of the Celtics is huge, and I think they can win in 6.
I can't disagree. I think it's a promoter's dream. This is the absolute best 2 teams matchup-wise. Maybe not best teams talent-wise or roster-wise, but the best 2 teams for a classic final series we could ever get, probably.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome.
Completely agree. But again, I said before, don't be surprised if the Warriors win, but Jason Tatum is finals MVP. That's my call right now.
Bit of a Nathan Buckley type SQ, hey?
Exactly right. Bit of a Jerry West number.
Like it. Chris Judd too.
Chris Judd.
All right. That's probably it. Anyway, all right. Thank you very much for listening to our NBA Finals preview on the Winger Podcast. Take us away, Dogger.
Make sure you listen to all of our episodes on Spotify.
At Winger Podcast.
And also leave us a rate right up the top as well. 5 stars would be preferable, but whatever you feel fits.
That'd be nice. It's true.
And follow us on Instagram.
At Winger Podcast.
Follow us on TikTok.
At Winger Podcast.
And make sure you check out our revitalised YouTube channel as well.
It's back up and running. It's got a pulse and it's alive. It is pumping, actually.
Very exciting.
3 uploads this week.
Yep. It's good to see our visuals, which is always good.
Like so you've got to put a pretty face to it.
We might even have 4 uploads this week, to be honest. We might even throw an extra one in there for you, but you'll have to stay tuned on that one. And how are you going to do that? Subscribe.
At Winger Podcast.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Great app, man. That's good.
Great up again.
We're killing it.
Oh,
These are fucking good apps.